Alright people, brand new podcast, Life's a Beach, brought to you by one half of Barry Bados, myself, Louis. Barry's very first dedicated podcast. This is just a trial. You can call it a pilot episode, but we'll see how we go, hoping this could be a fortnightly or weekly thing. Have to say a massive thank you to Bro Radio 98.1 FM, the directors, and Gareth Sweeney, the station manager, for letting me use the facilities to record this podcast. Whenever I'm in Barry, always have Bro Radio on, so make sure you do check it out, 98.1 FM. Now, for those that know me, I probably have 50 crazy ideas each and every week, and had an idea for a podcast about 3 months ago. I didn't really know what to do with it. Maybe I've just listened to too much Talk is Jericho, I really don't know. But I had this idea for the podcast, and obviously because I run Barry Bados, I do have an interest in Barry, and I thought there is not a dedicated podcast for Barry out there, so why not create one? So this is one of my crazy ideas, and from the moment that I thought of this podcast, I knew I wanted to tell the Barry Town story over the past 10, 12 years, because it is an incredible story. And these were, Barry Town United were the first guests that I wanted to have on this podcast. Now, people that know me know I'm a Cardiff City fan, but I started to like Cardiff City because of the atmosphere within the ground, and this takes me back all the way until 1996 when I went to my very first football game ever. It was Barry Town against Aberdeen at Jenner Park. I believe it was 3-3. I could be wrong, I'll have to go check that up. They put bleacher seating behind the goals. Jenner Park was packed. The whole crowd, the whole town was buzzing. It was such a great atmosphere. And I think that's where I found my passion for atmospheres and football, and that's probably why I fell in love with Cardiff City later at the time, because it wasn't for the football, trust me, because I was sat in the Bob Bank. I looked over to the atmosphere at the Grange End, and I saw the atmosphere in there. And if things I go all the way back into this 1996 game, my very first football game ever, and that is probably where I fell in love with football and atmospheres. So let us know your thoughts on this. Remember, you can follow Barry Bados, facebook.com/Barry Bados, at Twitter, Barry Bados, Instagram, Barry Bados. It's all going to be online as well for you to listen to, so any feedback is appreciated. So let's get into the podcast right now. Okay, we're now here, David Cole and Gavin Chesterfield, the manager of Barry Town United FC. Thanks for guys very much for coming on the first podcast, Life's a Beach.
Pleasure, thank you.
No problem. When I first started this podcast, as I said in my introduction, I did want to have you guys on first, just so we could tell the Barry Town story from start to finish, and just let everyone know, people in Barry, because some people, they really don't know what's happened over the past couple of years. Yeah. So first of all, I have to say congratulations. You're now in Division 1, is that correct?
That's right, yeah.
And back-to-back as well?
That's right, yeah. The boys have done ever so well in winning back-to-back titles, and looking forward to this season. Yeah,
was the season good in general?
And I have to say, the standard of the competition was very good, and met a lot of new friends along the way, you know. And it's always nice then to win 2 titles off the back of it and get back into that Division 1 again. When
did you first think that you were going up? Like you kind of knew that you were going to go up? Because I bet it happened a few weeks before you actually went there. I bet you thought, is it in the bag now?
No, you're always, as a manager, you're always trying to work out the ifs, buts and maybes, you know. But until you get those points in the bag, it's so difficult to sort of relax, if you know what I mean. But the boys put in a wonderful sort of consistent display all season, and we done well throughout, really. So we started the season going 21 games unbeaten, or 22 games unbeaten, and that sort of set the scene really for us, you know. It wasn't until, I don't think we lost until March, was it?
Yeah, we lost 2 very quickly, didn't we? But
that's right, yeah.
But I think at the end of the day, although you're almost there until you've got the points in the bag, and it's mathematically impossible. Because what you don't want is anybody relaxing, thinking it's all done and dusted, because you've only got a couple of games to win or something like that. So give it to the boys. They were absolutely brilliant all season, weren't they?
Oh, they've done really well, and the pleasing thing for that is with the spirit of the league. You know, the competition kept us honest right the way until the end. You know, so delighted, really.
Right, Gav, I've seen you've been doing some coaching with Thierry Henry.
Yeah.
Was that good? Like insightful?
Great experience. A wonderfully humble person who I have to say, even though I'm there to help and to guide and educate in some ways, in many ways it's much of an education for me as well, you know.
Definitely.
Very thankful for to the Welsh Football Trust for giving me those opportunities.
Yeah, and like it was so good seeing Thierry Henry in some Welsh football kit as well.
Yeah, I think a few people were hoping that he was going to switch his allegiance, but he's extremely patriotic to France.
Yeah. So Gav, like you became manager in 2007. What I want to do is go back a couple of years to David Reid. And when did you first realise that there could have been some potential issues with the running of the club and the football side of things?
About 2004.
2004?
Yeah, about 12 months after the previous owner that we were talking about took over.
Yeah.
Things just started going.
And what was the first thing that you kind of thought, that's not right?
Well, the first meeting of the Barry Town Supporters Club, when he said he was going to disband it and start forming his own little cliques all over Barry.
Yeah.
We knew it wouldn't work. I mean, it was hard enough running one supporters club in Barry. You know, he wanted one in Penquaitry on Barry Island, down in Barry.
It just didn't really work. It didn't really make sense.
It didn't make sense, and never ever got off the drawing board.
No.
But of course, what that does then, the first thing you're doing is alienating your supporters.
Yeah. Is this about the time you got relegated from the Premier as well?
It was a couple of years after that.
It's a couple of years after.
I mean, but that was a sort of the start of it, if you like. I mean, the year he took over, we were still in the Welsh Premier and got relegated the first year. So.
Yeah. Is that when you got relegated and then you wanted to put up at the ticket prices?
No, that was a couple of years on when we were relegated. We went from the Welsh Premier into Welsh League Division 1, and then we went from Welsh League Division 1 to Division 2. So I hasten to add, it's before Gavin arrived.
Yeah.
And when we got relegated, he wanted to put the prices up, and you know, you really start thinking, you know, what's going on here?
Yeah. So he bought the club, and then within a year or two, he wanted to sell it on straight away.
I think because of the alienation of the supporters,
I
think he realised that fairly quickly that he was in the wrong business. But he was just wanting to charge stupid amounts of money. I think it cost him about $125,000 to buy the club, and within a year he was asking $500,000.
Yeah, I know. I've noticed that some of his sale prices, on the internet, I thought they were quite extortionate, really. But anyway, Gav, did you become manager in 2007? What did you realise, as soon as you're coming in to the club? Did you think there was going to be trouble ahead, or did you think that it was on? Explain to me.
In many ways, back in 2007, I was extremely fortunate, if you like, to be given the opportunity to manage Barry Town. You know, because in reality, I was, new to the scene. I'd worked with some good players for a few years, but not really taken on a managerial role on my own. Generally working as a coach under a few other managers, and the opportunity sort of got put my way, and I was grateful. In that case, sometimes as a young manager, you sort of ride with the punches more than what you would do if you're maybe a more experienced manager.
Did you apply for the job, or was you recruited?
I applied for the job, and the interesting story is I didn't get it at first.
No,
and I was second choice.
Okay,
and I was clear in that regard. But fate has a wonderful way of sort of working sometimes, and very grateful to be given the opportunity. And then, as such, I sort of went from there. And I wouldn't say that anything was bad in the first year. We managed to get promotion to Division 2 in the first year.
That's my next question. And then he said that he's gonna withdraw the club if it's not sold within a 5-week period.
Yeah, well, I can't. There was a few of those sort
of
situations.
His asking price was $250,000 at that time. I believe it was.
But I think we were going through a situation there where it seemed every month he was going to sell it for this amount of money, and if it wasn't done within this period, he was going to close the club, and it just went on from month to month to month, operating like this. And it was, you've got this much money to run your club. A fortnight later is, I'm cutting the budget, and then a couple of weeks later, I'm cutting the budget, and that's how it went. Not just in Gavin's time, in the previous managers to him as well. It was just, there was no stability. Budget-wise, player-wise, it was like a revolving door with players. Yeah,
it was difficult.
It was difficult times.
Yeah, I have to say though, in that first year, we were lucky again. We we benefited greatly from huge player loyalty, and in many ways, you know, a lot of the sort of off-field stuff sort of brought us together on the field, you know. So to succeed in that first year and get promotion from Division 2 back into Division 1 was very pleasing.
Yeah,
I thought it was an amazing achievement, to be perfect on some circumstances we were in.
Yeah. So during that period, when did you first realise that there was potential trouble ahead?
It's difficult to say whether there was trouble ahead. It was more to do with, you know, it's going to be difficult in terms of, you know, can we really do what we want to do? Can we build what we want to build? Can we establish what we want to establish? And they were difficulties really, but you know, in those early years as a manager, and it's still the same now, you know, nothing ever runs smoothly. So there's a need for you to overcome those difficulties no matter what, and we just kept on trying to find a way to overcome the difficulties, bring us closer together on the field, and thankfully succeed, you know. I was party to many discussions at that time whereby, you know, there was some active interest in selling the club, and I thought that, you know, that would have been the opportunity then to kick us on to another level, but sadly for a variety of reasons those never materialised. But as I said, we just tried to keep on concentrating on what was on the field, and a lot of that sort of brought us closer together with the supporters. So again, that fate dealt its hand, you know.
Yeah, definitely. Did you have many meetings with the previous owner and discussions? Was it kind of like a level-headed to you, or was it kind of big plans? And
you know, a lot of the stuff was quite exciting, but then in the back of your mind you think sometimes maybe it's a bit unachievable. But you know, as a relatively young manager, you sort of go back and you think to yourself, oh, I'd love to be a part of this, but you know, ultimately, yes, lots of meetings, lots of dialogue, and I'd say that the relationship wasn't always sour. You know, I go back and I'll say I was very fortunate to be given this opportunity. But as I said, you know, many difficulties. You know, it's easy to forget it's a very, very big football club. You know, and Jenner Park is a relatively large ground with huge sort of expanse around it. You know, and I think that sometimes that is a huge job for one person.
Yeah. So during 08-09 season, when you failed to fulfil a fixture, was that a player problem? Was that an ownership problem?
No,
was that?
What happened was the league actually scheduled a fixture for a Wednesday.
Right.
And of course, I wasn't there then.
Right.
I hasten to add, he didn't notice, the previous owner who was doing the secretary's job at that time. He didn't notice that the game was on the Wednesday, so of course when it came to play the game we weren't allowed to use the pitch because it's all permanently booked out for athletics on a Wednesday.
A Wednesday, I know, they used to do it on a Wednesday.
You see, so what happened, the fixture didn't go ahead, so the club got fined and deducted 3 points.
Yeah. Was it a crucial 3 points?
Yes, I think. Well, any points are crucial. 3 points. You know, it was when we first stepped up from Division 2 into Division 1. We had a relatively large sort of player overhaul, but thankfully again we had some success, and I think we finished third that year. Maybe was we 3 points off second place,
I
so
think,
that would have given us second place.
Second place, yeah.
Yeah, so crucial in the main, but it didn't cost us any titles or anything like that.
That's good news. So is this about the time that the supporters committee started to form and starting to really take a big interest?
The supporters committee formed as a legal body, I suppose, is the way to
I'd probably say that the supporters committee at that time sort of organised itself would probably be a better way of putting it forward, because you know it's important to add that we worked with a relatively small budget in Division 2 and succeeded, but since then didn't have anything, because everything that we had to do would be to pay the bills of the club. And as a result of that, the supporters sort of organised themselves, made themselves a limited company, and it sort of kicked on from there. Really, it was more an opportunity. It probably wasn't by total choice. It was, it was something that had to be done, really. And from that point forward, then the guys sort of organised themselves and got stronger and stronger.
I think in some ways it was most probably a turning point.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
In the club's future, because suddenly the supporters had to do something to continue the football club, because the previous owner had said, that's it, I'm not funding football anymore. So if the supporters wanted football on Jenner Park, they had to do something. And therefore, you know, that was a real turning point in the history of Barrytown United.
Was this about the time that there was potential buyers, the kind of coming Shamrock coaches, Clayton Jones, I think, and that fell through. Was you hopeful of him buying the club?
I think any sort of well, very hopeful, because we were hoping that a sort of new owners would give us a bit more direction and allow us to achieve what we feel the club can achieve. We were competing at that time in Division 1. I think if we're being honest with ourselves, we're probably still a little off being ready for sort of Welsh Premiership status.
Okay.
But we were competitive in Division 1 at the time, and we thought that any new sort of investment or any new sort of strategic direction would be a good thing. Sadly, that didn't materialise, and there were a few others as well, to be fair. Yeah. There
were. I've seen something on on the news site. They said that John Hartson was kind of involved in that. Was that true?
Yeah. It was interesting, really, because at the time it was a bit more of a statement of intent as to how the club was hopefully going to move forward, and I know that John was potentially going to be a part of that, which is naturally exciting to have someone of his calibre on board.
Definitely international striker.
Yeah, that's right.
So this is around about 2010 time, and you left to go Haverfordwest.
That's right.
Did you apply for the job? Was you approached?
I was approached for the job, yeah.
Okay.
And it's a difficult opportunity to turn down, because at the time you're still a relatively young manager. A club in the Welsh Premier has given you potentially a huge opportunity. But in reality, whilst no experience is bad experience, I think at the time, staying on board would have been the right thing, I think, but we learn by everything that we do.
Yeah. Was you kind of excited to go to Haverfordwest, or was it kind of, I just want to get away from, not get away from all the troubles, but I've seen it all here and things could potentially get worse?
It's a nice straight question, I've got to give you that. There's always that part of you that's excited by the challenge, excited by the opportunity, and excited to manage in your league's national league. But at the same time, there's always that little element of you that suggests that we've been through a hell of a lot together at Barry.
Yeah.
And it's a very difficult thing to lose and a very difficult thing to leave behind.
Yeah.
Even though I was at Haverfordwest, I remained in contact with the club because I care. I care about the club and I care about what it does, and I think that that never subsided really.
Yeah.
And upon leaving Haverfordwest, it was. I was quite visible at Jenner Park for many, many weeks, because those players, have done a hell of a lot for me in the past, and as I said, I wanted to see the club achieve.
This is when the stand up for Barry campaign kind of started. Can you talk us through that? How did that start? Was it just like a social media thing?
Mostly, that was social. But I think what I would like to go back on to
Gavin
for when he did leave to go to Harris. I mean, what you've got to say is he went to a higher level of football, and I don't think you can ever criticise anybody, player, manager, or anybody who's going from your club and is going to a higher level, because it's an opportunity to do better.
Definitely.
But having said that, we were glad to have him back.
Yeah, glad to be back.
Yeah, I mean, going back to stand up for Barry, I think most of that, and the Barry Town SC, it was really social media. Just trying to get people involved in, I suppose, trying to rescue our football club, which we could see at that stage was having troubles, shall we say.
Yeah.
I have to say, at that time, social media, played a huge role in our survival. It allowed us to access an audience of people who care in the thousands, and they came from all over the world, didn't they?
We were having messages it's not just from Barry, or not even just from Wales, from around the globe. It really went. They call it. It went viral, as they say.
This is about the time of Twitter had probably just come onto the market as well, and people were just getting involved in it. And there was lots of celebrities tweeting you as well. I noticed as well, so.
Yeah, no, it made a huge difference to us, and it just got our story out there, and I think it's a bold statement, but I think that Twitter can really look at itself and it's playing a huge part in our survival. Because otherwise, then in the main, our story would have remained relatively local, and it wouldn't have got that sort of national sort of exposure that probably ultimately got us to the decision whereby our voice was heard.
Yeah, definitely. Was it like one person behind the account, or was there like a number of people controlling it? Or
that person will remain anonymous. But yeah, you'd think that there's about 1,000 people operating that account. That account tweets, but
I got a feeling I know who it is. I'm not going to name his name.
Yeah, no, there's some active supporters who have access to that account, and to be fair, they've done a magnificent job for us. Really, tweeted night and day.
Still going now.
Still going strong.
Brilliant stuff. Yeah.
Still going.
Yeah.
Still going. So when did the supporters committee start taking control of the actual football obligations?
2009.
That was 2009. That's when you started funding it, was it?
Purely funding the football element of Barrytown AFC Limited.
Yeah. So all the football-related bills, so training, use of Jenner Park, referees, floodlights, equipment, anything related to football. So all football-related activities, affiliations, cup entries, suspension, anything. Yeah.
And the previous owner, he was not involved in any of that at the time. And was he still trying to get involved into the football aspects while the supporters committee took control of it, or did he just push it aside and just let you be?
To be fair, the deal was relatively straightforward. It was a case of he didn't want to put any money at all into subsidising the football side of things, and wanted to concentrate on his business, which he didn't see the football as being a part of. And as such, the deal was quite simple. We pay all related bills and activities related to the football club, and the football will continue. Yeah. And we certainly kept our end of the bargain up.
Definitely.
That went on for 4 years.
Yeah. And it's pleasing from our perspective, because that's obviously a noose around your neck in many ways, but it proved to be an opportunity, because to be fair to the supporters club and indeed the committee, didn't miss a payment, didn't miss a bill, didn't owe a penny to anyone. And whilst it would have been nice for me as a manager to have some sort of budget at the time, at least we had the sort of solace, we had some solace in the fact knowing that our bills were all paid.
Oh, they're all paid and the football club is being run.
That's right, and that was so important to us, because from our perspective we were interested in the football. Yeah, it's a football club at the end of the day, and that's what mattered in the end.
Yeah. So if we kind of fast forward now to like 2012 and 2013 season, this was probably like the key season in the history of the football club. I mean, you're doing well in the league, and you just had a friendly with Cardiff City, attracted 18,000, was it?
It was Jenner Park was nearly full, so it was about 2,000.
Near 2,000, and it was 3-2 the score. You were leading 2-1 at half time.
Yeah, we had a goal disallowed incorrectly for offside in the last minute as well, but that doesn't cut too deeply.
No. So you're top of the league, and like you're still having threats at the be withdrawn. Yeah. I can only imagine that like you're top of the league and they're threatening to pull you from it. I totally can't understand it, really.
Well, at that stage we didn't see the threat as being viable, because at that point all the football related activities were paid by the football club. Yeah, because
you've had so many threats in the past as well. It was a kind of it's
crime wolf.
Yeah, it's the same thing again. Yeah. It's the same thing again.
Yeah, and the guys had given him no opportunity to do that, because every build was paid on time. We didn't owe a penny to anyone, and as such the agreement stood. It's strange. I actually found out about the withdrawal from the club that we were due to play.
Yeah, that was Tom Pendry.
That's right. That's right. Yeah.
So you just reached the fourth round of the cup, and like you find out that you're sacked, Gavin.
Yeah.
Right. Was that via text? Was it via like phone call, email? Or?
That was a phone call. It was quite an amusing phone call, if the truth be told. Yeah. I was actually dressed up at the time. Yeah. I was dressed as Sonic the Hedgehog. Yeah. Basically, like the lads and I have got a bit of a tradition whereby every Christmas, no matter what, we have a bit of a fancy dress do. And okay. I think it's important, it's brought us together over the years, and I've always dressed up with the lads. But yeah, I was sacked as Sonic the Hedgehog. Matthew Case, our kit manager, was driving the car at the time, and I was in the passenger seat. Yeah. And I took the phone call, which was quite interesting. I also had 3 of the players who were also dressed up in the back. Yeah. I think there was a Mr. Potato Head in there at the time. I'm not too sure who else was in there, but if you could ever imagine a sacking sort of vision, that certainly wasn't it.
No. What was the reasoning behind it?
To be honest with you, I can't remember now. I don't think it was results related.
No, because you were doing well in the league at the time. Doing well in the cup as well.
We just beat Neely Rangers in the Welsh Cup that afternoon.
Yeah, I think it was more to do with the fact that I think somebody had said something in the bar, right. And maybe the former owner had taken offence at that, and naturally then I would support the person who was alleged to have said something. So, one of those things.
Is it? Would you say the supporters committee at the time here now they kind of knew that there was going to be a fight going on now, because was it the supporters committee reinstated Gavin?
Yes.
Yeah. Well,
basically what we said was we as supporters finance the football at this football club, and therefore if we're going to sack the manager, we would do it.
It's your choice.
That's our choice, and therefore we refused to accept it, and by the end of the week he backed down.
Yeah, and was it correspondence, like a phone call, email, anything, and just nothing? Was it
just told Gavin to turn up?
It was
on Saturday because I think we were home again on the Saturday.
Yeah, it was a bit of a strange time really, because if you think about it logically, normally when a manager's sacked, that's it.
Yeah,
say your goodbyes and you move on, But I very much looked at the supporters at that time as being my employers. We'd worked very closely through some difficult times and achieved some quite special things really, which is quite pleasing. So in reality, I didn't recognise what was being said. As a result of that, the Friday before the game on the Saturday, where I'd made it clear that I was going to be in that dugout, the former owner spoke to me. We met up, and he said that he would reinstate me as manager,
even though that you've already been reinstated.
Exactly, yeah. So in reality, that just sort of, I suppose, affirmed things. But I was always going to be there on the bench on Saturday anyway.
Yeah, definitely. So let's get to that dreadful day in May then, in 2013. It's the 7th of May. You're due to play Tom Pentra.
That's right.
And you've been told that you've been withdrawn from the league. How does that... I mean, what was your initial reaction? Because these threats have gone on for, what, 6-7 years now, threatening, and the previous one, you finally did it. So what was your kind of reaction to it? So I can imagine absolutely fuming. And more.
Yeah, you're angry because you feel that you're the people for 4 years that have funded football, and a guy who has, sat in his clubhouse, running the clubhouse and keeping all the money for the clubhouse for his side of it. Yeah. We're working very hard to bring money in to keep the football club going, and then he just decides that that's it. We're not going to play anymore.
All your history, all your history and tradition of the football club and the ground, just gone.
Just gone.
Was it a reasoning behind it? Did he give a reason? Or did you just think it was kind of like a power?
Yeah, I think that at the
it's
end
water
of the day,
under the. I think it's water under the bridge now.
Yeah, we've moved on a lot, but
we've spoken about it a lot. It was at that time we were all pretty devastated. We all turned up that evening because it was a Tuesday evening game.
Because didn't you do like a sitting in the ground?
We all sat in the ground as if the game was going to go ahead. But in the long run, when you look back on it now, it was most probably the best thing that had happened to us.
Yeah, it was a turning
because
point.
Suddenly we then became responsible, not just for running the club, but trying to save it.
Yeah. It was a highly emotive evening, if you can imagine. I've got a group of players who are expecting to play. We're in 2 games before the end of the season. Strangely, that ended up being a double header against Tom Pentra, so we were due to play them home and away to complete that season. And I felt the boys were cheated in many ways because a football season is a long old year. You train religiously throughout the week. You put yourself through the mill. You play all these games of football, and at the end of the season, you want to measure yourself and see where you finish. And to be I suppose have that opportunity taken away from us was hugely frustrating. I think following the game, following the news, if you like, we continued to meet at Jenner Park, and we had a lot of supporters turn up and have a discussion, and the conversation was one of disbelief really, because in reality I'm not too sure this is precedented before. I can't seem to think of anything that comes to mind, but it was an opportunity. It was an opportunity to discuss. It was an opportunity to digest what had happened, and in reality, it was an opportunity to further organise ourselves and how to save what we deemed as our club anyway.
Definitely, and of course as well. You just had a good season. You just reached the semi-finals of the cup.
Yeah,
it's probably been one of the best seasons for the past couple of years. And then you find the news that it could potentially be over.
Yeah.
And what was the immediate course of action? Did you speak to the FAW? Did you try and get hold of the previous owner? Did carry on training?
Yes.
All of that.
All of that,
all
right?
Of that, all of the above.
Yeah.
Because as I said, it was one of disbelief at the time, because you've got to ask yourself the question, why? And we couldn't really ascertain a clear and sort of understandable answer really. So we continued to try and train. We continued to contact the FAW, try and contact the previous owner, see what sort of options were available to us, and ultimately drew a lot of closed doors.
Was he answering your phone calls at the time, and emails?
No,
nothing. So it just it was kind of complete darkness. You've been withdrawn from the league, and at the time you just didn't have a clue why.
No, I found out from the opposition, and I thought it was some sort of joke.
Yeah.
I was thinking, all right, we've been here before, but no, I found out from the opposition, and
I found out from the referee.
Oh, right, okay, so they all knew before us anyway.
Yeah, so
which is probably an answer in itself.
Was it straight on the phone to the FAW then? Was it, and then try and find out the next course of action?
Well,
and if
my
you
first
continue.
course, because of course by this time I'd been sacked as secretary.
Oh right, yeah.
But he wasn't dressed as Sonic the Hedgehog. You know?
Because.
What was you dressed as?
I wasn't. I'm too old to go for those things. Because only the secretary can write to the Welsh League to withdraw the club, and I refused to do it. He sacked me as secretary and wrote to the Welsh League and said I'd been sacked, which was a bit of a silly thing in first place, because if only the secretary can write to the Welsh League, then only I can sack myself.
Definitely.
But anyway, they accepted. They said he was the owner of the club, of Barrytown AFC Limited, I should say, and therefore they would have to accept that. So of course, by accepting that, then he could write and cancel all games, withdraw us from the league. But we tried with the Welsh League first off. We certainly contacted the FAW, saying that surely we could just finish.
Were they helpful at the time?
They were. They wanted both. Certainly, the FAW wanted both games played. But it really, I think, what it boiled down to right at the end was, if he had withdrawn us from the league, would that then negate player insurance? And if a player got seriously injured in that game,
right,
he would not have been insured.
Okay.
And you just can't take that sort of chance with players.
As I said, there were dead ends everywhere we turned. I have to say, there was a desire for us to complete the season. We were willing to complete the fixtures. In fact, we were willing to play the games without that insurance. But sadly, we weren't given that opportunity. And Dave at the time was sitting on the Welsh League Management Committee, and I remember making endless phone calls, to try and ascertain, a route to follow, try and understand, what has happened and what can be done. But sadly, as I said, no sort of answers were really forthcoming.
Yeah. So before the first hearing then of the FAW, I just want to read a statement which they put on their website. It says, the FAW has sympathy with the supporters of the proud club who want to see their team playing football and continuing the long history and tradition associated with Jenner Park. The association is in correspondence with all involved. So when the first hearing happened, did you feel let down? Because it's the FAW Wales, and obviously you've been playing in the Welsh League X amount of time. Everything has been paid by yourselves, the supporters, and yet they refused your entry.
I think you've got to feel disappointed with the reaction, because you do feel, hang on, we've been doing all this. There's really got nothing to do with him. He might own the limited
holdings.
Company, but he's had no responsibility for the football club, the football side of the club for 4 years. The FAW know, the Welsh League know that we've been funding everything, because everything is paid for, affiliation fees, all things, comes from a checkbook which says Barrytown Supporters Committee on it.
Yeah.
But it just didn't seem to make any difference.
No.
And that was frustrating.
Right. Did you have any other supporters within the FAW at the time? Was it kind of all negative, or was there kind of people fighting your case?
I think there was a lot of sympathy on our behalf.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think there's a lot of good people there who genuinely cared about the game in Wales.
Yeah.
And genuinely wanted to help. But I think that in reality, in some cases even their hands were tied, because, as Dave said, mentioned about player insurance or the limited company or our company, or in reality it was just getting the waters were just getting murkier and murkier and murkier, and in reality, what eventually happened was probably the only outcome that could have saved it.
Yeah.
And that's naturally disappointing. As a football person, I was hoping for the football to reign true and come out on top, and thankfully it did. But at the time, I think there was a lot of goodwill. I think there was a lot of genuine, heartfelt sort of wishes, but sadly nothing materialised.
Didn't they have a second meeting and they voted, and there was 15?
That's further along.
I was telling me the course of action, from the first meeting, the first hearing, then to the second hearing.
This is when we applied. our first course of action was for the following season, of course,
right.
is that we had to apply to become a member of the Football Association of Wales, which would have allowed us then to apply to play in the Welsh League as Barrytown United, which is what the Barrytown Supporters Committee had been renamed.
Okay.
Our big argument all along was that the FAW, the Welsh League, all knew that we had funded this football club for 4 years, and therefore we just saw ourselves as a continuation of that Barrytown.
Club,
It was just a different title, that was all. Unfortunately, at the first meeting they had, not just us, it was Nestle Town were
because
in the same boat as well. The Football Association of Wales Committee, which is the councillors, the elected councillors, voted not to allow us to enter either the FAW or the Welsh League. The FAW staff felt that they had found a way for us to apply and get into the league, and that's when they had the second meeting where they voted not to have a meeting.
Right, so they told you to have a meeting. No, they kind of arranged a second meeting, and then they voted not to have that meeting.
They voted because FAW rules say if you make a decision at one meeting, you can't alter that decision for 6 months unless you revoke standing orders, as they call. And they voted not to revoke standing orders, which means they couldn't hear the evidence to give us the place in the Football Association of Wales and then the Welsh League, which is when the court case happened. And it was straight on the phone to a solicitor at the time. And did you think that you had like a good case to bring to court? I don't think we would have gone to court if we didn't.
No, I think you're right. I think that naturally it's easy for us to be caught up in the emotion of it,
Yeah, and, definitely.
We want to fight. We feel as if we've got a strong case, but in reality, when it comes down to the legalities of it, it's relatively simple. You have or you haven't.
Yeah.
I remember contacting our barrister at the time late at night. It was around about 11:30, I think. In fact, my wife contacted him, and we had a reply within 5 minutes. Can you get to London in the morning?
Yeah, straight to London, was it?
And Dave and I were straight on the train.
Yeah.
Straight on the train to London, with all our case notes and everything that happened, evidence based. And we sat in, the chambers, didn't we? Which was an experience in itself, overlooking the courts of justice. And at that point, our sort of case was formulated. And we both came home from London that day feeling relatively confident, or relatively optimistic is probably a better word. Because it's still hope rather than expectation, and it sort of took its toll from there, really. We then sort of worked with Barry solicitors at this end, didn't we?
Yeah.
With Robsons and Robertsons, which worked ever so well for us, and magnificent support there.
Yeah.
And just sort of snowballed, and still there's always that part of you that thinks, is there a way of this not going to court? Is there a way of this that football can be...
Did you think it could not go to court? Did you think it could get settled outside of course once the FAW in the league it's seen your case?
I'd always hoped that would be the case. The last thing you want to do is go to court, really. But
definitely,
ultimately, it was the only option we had available to us, and sadly, in many ways, it did come to fruition. But thankfully, the right outcome was achieved.
Was it a part of not just you two, but everyone involved in the club that this was it? It was over as the club.
Personally, as a supporter, I never ever gave up hope.
Oh, okay. Optimistic all the way.
Well, I say you have to be optimistic, but otherwise it's just not worth doing what you're doing.
Yeah.
Yes, there is always that scare at the end of it. They're going to turn around and say you've lost your case, and then where the hell do you go now? But we were very, very optimistic. We thought we had a good case. We always thought we had a good case.
Yeah.
But sometimes logic and law don't go together. And you're biased, aren't you?
Yeah.
As a supporter, you think you look at your case and you think, how can they refuse this?
Yeah.
So you go to court and you're hoping that the judge will understand what your case is all about, and thankfully he did.
At that point we were living it. every single waking hour, really. Sometimes in the middle of the night. We were absolutely living it. So you knew that case inside out and back to front. And
definitely.
At that time, you knew every meeting, what was said, what wasn't said, everything that sort of went into our case file. But in reality, then the case itself is left up to the experts, to position that argument as they see fit. And thankfully, we met a magnificent person in Jonathan Crystal, and he guided us through.
Like the whole court case experience, was that kind of draining? Was it grueling? Was it scary as well, being in court?
Yeah, it was scary. It was scary. Yeah, I never forget at the time. Dave and I were sat together, solicitors in front of that, and obviously our barristers in front of that, and it's a bit of a surreal setting, really, because I'm used to sort of football matters being settled on the football field,
Yeah.
But never forget, because we went, I think it was 3 times altogether, wasn't it?
Yeah.
It was the first hearing to get it heard, it was the second hearing to hear something else, and then the third one was the actual sort of verdict, if you like. But I'll never forget when I turned around and I see a load of the supporters in their shirts. At that point, you know all along what you're fighting for, but when you turn around and you see a load of supporters in their shirts, and there was a lot of tears in that room at the time. Because the club,
definitely, because you put everything into this not just the past couple of years, couple of weeks for the court case, for the past couple of years, the football club has been in everyone's life.
Well, it was a highly emotive issue for me, and I've been there since 2007 in reality. But you've got people in that room who've been supporting this club for 60 and 70 years. Definitely. You've got associations with this club from people all over the town, and it's at that point you realise what you're fighting for.
Definitely. You get the victory. Was there screams of joy in the course? Was everyone jumping up and down?
Only after the tears, because I think most of us thought we'd lost originally.
Was it right?
We didn't know.
Because
right.
Because he made he sort of made 2 judgments.
Okay.
And when he came out with the first judgment, I was thinking, and it was all over a piece of paper that I had signed. You see, and I'm thinking, oh my God, I've signed a piece of paper. The death warrant of Barrytown United.
Oh no!
Yeah. And then suddenly somebody said, "We've won."
Yeah.
I think, what?
Because I remember asking Jonathan at the time. I said, "What does it mean?" He goes, "What does it mean?" He said, "In a little bit more of an expletive version, we've won." And then at that point, the tears of joy certainly turned to joy, didn't they?
Yeah. It was fantastic. But I mean, what also was good to see in the audience, whatever you call them in court.
I know what you mean.
The gallery.
In the gallery was people who had played for our football club, who were now with other football clubs, sat there.
Wow. Wow, there's still a lot of support then.
Yeah, absolutely. And for me, it's really important because it just goes to show what the club means to a variety of people. It's strange, I can't really describe it really, but once you play for the club and you've been associated with it, you have that affinity with it.
Definitely.
And it just sort of gets under your skin really. And I think to see those people who'd sort of come for that day, to see the supporters who've been there for hell and high water for many, many years, to see people like Dave, who's, how long have you been at the club, Dave?
26 years.
It's a lifetime really.
Definitely.
And magnificent.
Was it a huge party in London then?
No. The court was in Cardiff.
I was in Cardiff. Sorry.
Yeah, the High Court was in Cardiff.
Was it a huge party after that? Everyone involved.
Yeah, we went back to the tinny. We went back to the Tynewydd, and we stayed there till the late hours and had a great time. But it was a strange one, really, wasn't it? It was a lot of relief. It was a lot of joy. It was, still trying to come to terms with everything because a magnificent football club can live on.
Yeah, definitely. So after the court case, and you've had the decision now, did you wake up the next day and say, right, it's back to work now on the football club? Look, or did you let it sink in?
I tell you what's really important for people to understand, and this is so unique.
Okay.
Between the time of it going to court and it going through the sort of the procedures of court and what court involves, at that point we didn't have a badge to call our own. We didn't have a kit to play in. We played all our friendlies across the bridge, which naturally incurred a lot of expense for the supporters.
Yeah.
The players, they stood by us through everything. They continued to train, in some cases 3 times a week, for, let's be honest, no money, which they used to anyway. Not knowing if they've got a club or not knowing what league, if any league, they're going to be positioned in.
They still turned up.
And every single one of them.
And that court case was a week before the season started.
You know, and without that, this is the point I need to get across. Really, the court case, absolutely magnificent. But if you haven't got a team to represent you on the following Saturday, you've not got a football club anyway.
Yeah.
So for the players to stand by us through thick and thin at that point and continue to do what they did, in fact, we had a pretty good pre-season. I think we went pretty much unbeaten in pre-season throughout that time. And then to fulfil our first game on the Saturday, ironically then against Llanelli, we won a friendly, I think it was 3-1, was it, something like that? And then to have our first game then in the then Welsh Cup in the qualifying stages against Treforys and winning 8-0 at Jenner Park was just magnificent. So the players during that point, you know, that's why I say that this is such a unique story, because that just doesn't happen in sport.
Definitely.
You know, that togetherness, that desire to remain steadfast, if you like, in the most difficult of circumstances will stay with me forever.
But before the court case, wasn't there like a friendly up with Cardiff City as well? Did you get a lot of support off them?
Yeah, I have to say throughout that period, Cardiff, and indeed throughout our entire time at the club, magnificent to us, you know. Really good football club with good values in terms of how they support us, and they've always sent a strong team to play us in pre-season.
Joe Mason, Rudy Gusted,
that's right,
well. Darcy Blake, Declan Keenan.
Yeah, you see all of them, you know, and good people, and they're a good workout, and I think they like coming to Barry.
Yeah,
you know, it's a magnificent stadium. It's good support. It's Cardiff supporters, Barry supporters, people who are just interested in watching a good game of football.
Yeah.
It's a day for the community to enjoy, and I think Cardiff enjoy that, and in fact that's remained now a sort of feature of our pre-season, every pre-season, you know, and we're really thankful to them. They really did stick by us.
Yeah. This brings us up to the present day now. Looking back on everything that's happened, was that decision in 2013 turned out to be the best decision that's probably ever happened at the football club, like for the past 10-15 years or something?
Since 2003 anyway,
yeah.
It's got to be. I think it's concentrated our minds now in that whatever happens at this football club, we decide.
Yeah.
I mean, the royal we, the supporters, those people who are members of our football club, they're the people now who decide what happens at this football club. That actually has a lot of hiccups on the way.
Yeah.
Because, you know, some of us are not used to running. We're used to being part of a football club.
Yeah.
But now we own it. And that's a different kettle of fish now. It's a lot more responsibility, having the fans running it. But everything that happens at this football club, we decide.
Yeah.
But I have to say, I'd like to add, without Gavin and Hannah and Mike Cosler, Damon,
all the guys,
all the supporters, all the players who've, I mean, I can't believe how loyal these guys are.
Everyone's been they're still with you.
And I would say 90% of those players from 2000, in fact, who've been here since about 2010, 2011, most of them are still with us, and they love this football club as much as we do. You know, the fact that, you know, they don't go anywhere because they just want to play here, because they've got a good manager, good coaches, they get a good football education at our football club.
Good ground as well.
It's not just turning up on a Saturday and playing a football match and then going home. It is turning into what it used to become, which was a family football club.
Oh, that's the plan.
Definitely.
You know, that's the plan. But yeah, where we are now, embarking upon another pre-season that started last night.
And speaking of your plans, is the Premier League like the next objective? Or are you just happy to be playing on Division 1 football and growing as a football club?
It's a difficult question to answer, really. In many ways, if somebody had offered me to be in Division 1 2 years after the court case, I would have snapped your hands off, especially winning back-to-back titles.
Yeah.
But the competitor inside you never starts a league season wanting to finish halfway up, you know. However, I've got to say it's probably the most competitive Division 1 I've seen in the last 10 years.
Yeah.
And there's some very, very good teams in there with some very good players, so we know it's going to be tough, but we feel that, you know, with the group of players we've got that have got a little bit more mature, a little bit more experience, they've got undoubted quality, and they've got a great affinity with each other. We've strengthened by bringing in a few more players, which will boost us further.
Yeah, I saw you brought coaching as well on Twitter.
Is
that correct?
Yeah, that's right.
Sean?
Yeah. Well, Sean is working as an S&C coach with ourselves, so strength and conditioning coach.
Okay.
Also brought in a new video analyst in terms of Josh Morris, and again, that's a link that we have with Cardiff City. Another talented individual. And also boosted our sort of backroom staff with another coach who's just started his A-youth licence in Damien Flynn. So the backroom staff now is relatively, it is very strong in terms of qualifications and experience. But what we have to do is give the players the platform to play, you know. So we're hopeful of being competitive, go around the houses in some ways, but yeah, ultimately we'd love to get back in the Welsh Premier. And that is the hope, but in reality we've got to realise that there's a hugely testing sort of campaign ahead of us, you know. And when we first started 2 years ago, we wrote a 5-year plan, and thankfully we're well ahead of where we were supposed to be at this time.
Okay.
So now it's a case now of maybe revising those plans and try and look forward further.
Good guys, excellent.
I tell you, what's important for us to understand in this period as well is we've been very lucky, with this sort of period. Our sponsors have just stuck by us through thick and thin. They're local sponsors.
Yeah.
We had huge support from Mark Barrett down at Rim Motors, who's still with us.
Yeah. Still on the shirt, isn't he?
Still on the shirt, yeah. And the same with Lyndon Smith at LDS Motor Factors. Local people who stuck by us through thick and thin and continue to stick with us, much like the players are. So this sort of togetherness is on the field, but it's also off the field and everything we do, well. And all these things will stick with me for the rest of my days, I think.
Definitely. And speaking of the sponsors, was that a big thing for the club, for them to stick by you during that period as well? Because it could have been easy for them to say, I'm going to go somewhere else now. Yeah.
But it just sort of echoes all that thing. It's just that level of togetherness, And I feel it's only getting stronger and stronger. And as I said, this is just such a unique thing. If you've lived it and if you've seen it from the outside or even sort of felt it, you can relate to it at any level. And I think that there's many messages this football club promotes that, echo through life really, and in business. So, it's important for us to see that. And what's really interesting for me now is, I think it was last year, at the start of last season, we had a club photo. And the club photo was all the kids in the club, all the staff in the club, all the senior players in the club. And that for me was a really emotive photo, because that's what we're fighting for really.
Yeah.
But then this year we've grown again.
So you started a ladies team as well. Is that correct?
Well, yeah, not necessarily. Yeah. So basically, what's happened is we've sort of worked in affiliation with Vale Reds Disability Football Team.
Okay.
So they'll be playing next year as Barrytown United, and there's 35 of those players pan disability. So we're really looking forward to them. In fact, we attended their presentation last weekend, which is a great occasion. And we've also signed an affiliation with Vale Girls Football Club, who I have to say are doing some magnificent stuff for girls in the local area. They've got around about 150 girls registered, and the plan is now for them to stay as Vale Girls, keep their identity because they're doing some wonderful work, but then they exit then into a senior ladies team in Barrytown United, playing in our colours, playing at Jenner Park, and that's hugely exciting as well. You couple that then with our sort of intention to launch a UEFA licensed academy now for boy players or for male players in the local area. It's a really exciting time, and without that verdict, I don't think any of this would be happening.
Definitely, it is definitely sounds like the club is everyone's pulling together and everything is going in the right direction. And your first fixture is when?
Well, we play our first fixture now behind closed doors on the 11th, and that'll be against Cardiff City as a sort of training friendly, really. That'll be good, definitely. Yeah. But then in terms of our first league fixture, that'll be August the 15th, and that'll be against Cardiff Metropolitan University, and who finished third last year in Division 1, so that'll be tough.
Yeah, definitely. Can't thank you enough for coming in, guys. It's been incredible. Do you have any more words about the club, about the fixtures, or anything that you want to say?
No, I just think that from my perspective, it's a privilege to work for the club. Don't get me wrong, at times it's hard and it's long and it's quite demanding, but to see numbers growing, to see a lot of Barry lads now in the team. I think at the moment, out of a squad of 18, I think we've got 10 local lads in the team, which is magnificent. I don't think we've had that for many years.
Yeah.
You look at all the things that are happening, it's a good time to get involved. And what I want as a manager is, the council now have invested into Jenner Park, which I think is a magnificent thing, because it'll create a sort of central hub for sport for everyone to enjoy on a 3G pitch at Jenner Park. And I know it's had much criticism, but in reality, making Jenner Park accessible to people of all ages and abilities can only be a good thing.
Of course.
So you couple all those things together and put them into the mix. It's a great place to be, and I just encourage anyone to come down, sample it for themselves, and see what they think.
Definitely. Well, guys, it's been an absolute pleasure on this podcast, and I can't thank you enough for coming on.
No, likewise. Thank you.
Cheers.
Wow. What an incredible story. I've just had the privilege of listening to and being part of and asking questions to both Gavin and David. Massive thank you to both David Cole and Gavin Chesterfield, the manager of Barrytown United, for coming in, giving up their time, speaking to me, answering questions and explaining the Barrytown United story over the past 10 or 15 years or so. I cannot imagine what those court scenes were like. It must have been the highs and the lows, and I can only imagine the tears of joy when they finally realised that they had won the court case and they would be allowed to continue playing football, because that is all they want to do. They had a family club. They're doing great things in Barry, and I'll be checking them out over the course of the season. I hope other people do as well. What a great story. Massive thank you to Gavin's wife, Hannah, who's just been sat in the studio for over an hour in silence near enough, just listening to the story as well. So that was the very first episode of Life's a Beach. Hope you all enjoyed it. It was a pilot episode. I'm hoping to possibly look to do this maybe fortnightly, hopefully weekly. If you have any feedback, facebook.com/Barry Bados, Twitter @Barry Bados, Instagram @Barry Bados. This will be on our website and on Mixcloud as well. Who would you like for me to interview in and around Barry? Ask the questions that you may not have the answers to. Maybe a counsellor, maybe a sports person, maybe just a general person from Barry that has a key interest. It has been so much fun doing this podcast. I have an incredible time. I cannot believe I was in the studio for over an hour at Barrytown United. So, until next time, life's a beach.